Greetings everyone. I am Abdul Walid, master student in the Department of Information System Security at Concordia University. The title of my research is Multistage Stress Classification and Cognitive Capacity Analysis using electroencephalography, abbreviated as EEG. The presentation will proceed as follows. We will begin by outlining the purpose of this research, followed by an introduction to the brain EEG technology's advantages over other techniques and the characteristics of various brain waves. Next, we will provide an overview of the stressors used in our study. This will be followed by a discussion on data collection and signal processing methods. We will then present and analyze the results and finally conclude the presentation with key findings. There were four main purposes behind conducting this research. This presentation covers multi-stage stress classification, the distinction between subject-dependent and subject-independent analysis, the correlation between brainwaves and cognitive capacity, and the development of an EEG-based model for score prediction. The brain is a highly evolved organ that serves as the control center of the nervous system. It contains around 86 billion neurons forming complex networks through synapses that drive our thoughts, emotions, and senses. Through constant interaction with the spinal cord and peripheral nerves, the brain regulates vital functions and responds to the world around us. EEG is a non-invasive technique to record electrical activity of the brain. EEG uses electrodes placed on the scalp to detect electrical impulses produced by neurons. Data is displayed as waveforms on the computer screen. EEG is less expensive and safe compared to other techniques. EEG is preferred over other techniques such as fMRI and TEP for stress detection due to its very high temporal resolution. It provides insight into the brain health and function. There are five types of brain waves, namely delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. We will now explore the properties of each brain wave one by one. The delta wave has the lowest frequency that ranges between 0.5 and 4 Hz. Delta wave amplitude ranges between 20 and 200 microvolts. Delta wave is associated with deep sleep, low consciousness, and inhibition. It is mostly found in the thalamus and rust during deep sleep. The theta wave's frequency ranges between 4 and 8 Hz. It has an amplitude in the range of 10 to 100 microvolts. It is associated with light sleep, low consciousness, and emotional stress in adults. It is prominently seen in the hippocampus, frontal, and temporal regions. The alpha brainwaves have the frequency between 8 and 12 Hz. It has an amplitude of 20 to 60 microvolts. It is associated with the state of relaxation. It is generated by thalamocortical interactions, most visible in the occipital and parietal regions. The beta waves have frequency between 12 and 30 Hz. It has an amplitude of 5 to 20 microvolts. It is associated with the learning, thinking, and problem solving. It is prominently found in frontal parietal areas during alert cognitive activity. The gamma brainwaves are the brainwaves with highest frequency, which is greater than 30 Hz. It is highly associated with complex problem solving and information processing. We employed two types of stressors in our study, namely arithmetic calculations and the Stroop-Color test. We will examine each separately. Arithmetic calculations consist of the operations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and contain some puzzles based on the same operations. In congruent Stroop-Color test, the color of the ink of the printed word matches with the name of the word. As we can see, orange word is printed with orange ink, the blue word is printed with blue ink, the pink word is printed with pink ink, and similarly the green word is printed with green ink. So the correct option is the third option that says orange, blue, pink, green. The Incongruent stroop color word test is the one in which the color of the ink of the printed word doesn't match with the name of the word. As we can see, the black word is printed with red color, white word is printed with blue color, purple word is printed with pink color, and the red word is printed with black color. The right option is the fourth option that says red, blue, pink, black. The data collection process began with a warm-up session designed to familiarize participants with the experiment. This phase included 4 questions, 2 involving basic arithmetic and 2 were from the Stroop color test. Following the warm-up, participants listened to a relaxing music to establish a baseline of relaxation. Next, the first part of the experiment was conducted, comprising 15 questions, simple arithmetic problems, and congruent Stroop color test. After completing this section, another round of relaxing music was played to help participants return to a relaxed state. The experiment then proceeded to second phase, which consisted of 15 stress-inducing tasks involving complex arithmetic and incongruent Stroop color test. This was followed by a final session of relaxing music to reestablish the relaxation baseline. Upon completing all experimental phases, participants were asked to complete an online questionnaire and self-assess their stress levels during each stage of the experiment. After data collection, the next step was pre-processing to remove artifacts such as eye blinks, jaw clenching, and muscle movements. We used EEG lab to pre-process the raw EEG signals, applying baseline correction, filtering, channel interpolation, and independent component analysis to ensure cleaner and more reliable data. Baseline correction is very important step in pre-processing because it removes unwanted DC offsets. It can be caused by the poor contact between electrodes of the EEG headband and the scalp. It standardizes the results across multiple trials by removing effects of the sensor impedance that can cause different DC offsets across trials. Filtering is performed after baseline correction to remove unwanted frequency components. We utilize band pass filtering to extract only the frequency range that we were interested in by setting the high cutoff frequency at 0.5 Hz and the low cutoff frequency at 50 Hz. We implemented the band pass filtering by utilizing the infinite impulse response filter present in the EEG lab. Filtering is a very critical step in pre-processing because it improves the signal to noise ratio by removing unwanted frequencies such as low frequency drifts caused by artifacts and the power line noise caused by electromagnetic interference. Next, we applied interpolation to handle any missing or noisy EEG channels. This process involves estimating the values of bad electrodes using data from neighboring electrodes. It helps ensure that the signal remains spatially consistent and reduces the risk of losing important information during analysis. To clean the EEG data, we applied independent component analysis. This technique separates the recorded signals into independent sources. It helps us isolate and remove artifacts like eye blinks, muscle movements, and other noise, allowing us to focus on the brain related components. To extract power band values, we first need to convert the EEG signal from the time domain to the frequency domain. This is achieved using the fast Fourier transform, which transforms the signal and provides complex amplitudes as specific frequencies. From the resulting frequency spectrum, we can compute the power spectral density using methods like Welch method and Berg's method. The correlation heat map illustrates the linear relationships between variables. In our case, we use data from the 4 electrodes of the Muse EEG headband and computed statistical features such as minimum, maximum, mean, and standard deviation. The heat map shown here focuses on the correlation between delta and theta brainwaves, where we observe a strong correlation. This is expected as both are low frequency brainwaves and share similar characteristics in terms of signal patterns. This slide shows the correlation heat map between beta and gamma brain waves. We observe a strong linear relationship between them, which is expected since both are high frequency brain waves associated with learning, thinking, and problem solving. In this slide, we focus on the alpha to beta ratio, which is a widely used indicator in EEG based stress analysis. First, it's important to understand that this ratio reflects the balance between relaxation and cognitive activity. A higher alpha to beta ratio generally indicates a relaxed and calm state, as alpha waves are associated with restful wakefulness. In contrast, a lower alpha to beta ratio suggests a stressed or mentally aroused state due to an increase in beta activity and a reduction in alpha. This relationship has been consistently supported by research, making the alpha to beta ratio a useful marker for assessing mental workload. This graph illustrates the alpha to beta ratio recorded from one participant in a relaxed state. This graph illustrates the alpha to beta ratio recorded from one participant while performing a cognitive task. It is evident that alpha or beta ratio was high during relaxation compared to cognitive task mode. A pair t-test is a statistical method used to compare the mean values of the same subjects under two different conditions. In our study, we applied this test to compare the mean alpha or beta ratio of the same participants during two stages, relaxation and cognitive task. This allowed us to determine whether there was a significant difference in brain activity between these two conditions. Since p-value is less than 0.05, that means the difference in mean values of alpha or beta ratio between relaxation and cognitive task is statistically significant. The effect size is negative, that means alpha or beta ratio decreased as we move from relaxation to cognitive task. We employed 5 different classifiers, namely naive Bayes, random forest, support vector machine, long short-term memory, and convolutional neural network to perform stress classification. We evaluated the performance of the classifiers using subject-dependent analysis with tenfold cross-validation. To assess the models, we used standard classification metrics included accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. As shown in the tables, the CNN model outperformed other classifiers, achieving the S classification accuracy of 99.9%. In contrast, naive Bayes classifier underperformed compared to other classifiers. We evaluated the model's performance using subject-independent analysis by employing leave one subject out cross-validation. In lasso cross-validation, the model is trained by leave one subject out. The left subject is used to test the model's performance in testing phase. None of the classifiers performed well. CNN and LSTM achieved the highest joint classification accuracy of 52%. In subject-dependent analysis, the same participant data is used in both the training and testing phases. This allows the model to learn subject-specific patterns, which often leads to inflated performance metrics. However, the results do not generalize well to the data from unseen participants. In contrast, subject-independent analysis evaluates the model using data from participants not seen during training. This approach encourages the model to learn generalizable patterns rather than subject-specific ones, resulting in more realistic performance and posing a greater challenge, making it a more practical evaluation method. We propose a two-stage deep learning model to improve the performance metrics in subject-independent analysis. The first stage uses an autoencoder for feature extraction and dimensionality reduction. The second stage employs an LSTM model to perform classification. To enhance the model's ability to detect meaningful brain activity patterns, we employed 5 distinct sets of features as inputs to our deep learning model. Power band values, which represent the distribution of EEG signal power across different frequency bands such as delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. We extracted entropy-based features which quantify the complexity and irregularity of EEG signals. We considered the phase difference between EEG channels, providing insight into the timing relationship of brain activity across different regions. We included the phase locking value, a measure of the synchronization consistency between signals. Finally, we used coherence, which evaluates the degree of correlation between EEG signals in the frequency domain. We employed our deep learning model to perform both binary and three-level stress classification by employing subject-independent analysis using lasso cross-validation strategy. The model achieved an accuracy of 83% for binary stress classification, and other performance metrics were precision of 83%, recall of 82%, F1 score of 82%. The model reported an accuracy of 66% for three-stage stress classification, and other performance metrics such as precision, recall, and F1 score were all 0.55. Alpha brainwaves are highly associated with relaxation and focus state. Delta brainwaves are associated with deep sleep, low consciousness, and inhibition. Theta brainwaves are associated with light sleep, low consciousness, and emotional stress in adults. Delta and theta brainwaves are both low frequency brainwaves and have a strong linear relationship. We plotted the alpha or delta ratio for one high performing and one low performing participant from our experiment. The high performance ratio is represented by the blue line, while the low performers ratio is shown in orange. As observed, the alpha or delta ratio is consistently higher for the higher performer compared to the lower performer, indicating a potential link between this ratio and performance level. We plotted the alpha or theta ratio for one high performing and one low performing participant from our experiment. The high performance ratio is represented by blue line, while the low performance ratio is shown in orange. As observed, the alpha or theta ratio is consistently higher for the high performer compared to the low performer, indicating a potential link between this ratio and performance level. We plotted the alpha or delta plus theta ratio for one high performing and one low performing participant from our experiment. The high performance ratio is represented by blue line, while the low performance ratio is shown in orange. As observed, the alpha or delta plus theta ratio is consistently higher for the higher performer compared to the lower performer, indicating a potential link between this ratio and performance level. We made two groups of 10 participants each, one group containing 10 best participants whereas the other group containing 10 worst participants, and compared the alpha or delta or alpha or theta and alpha or delta plus theta ranks by employing Mann-Whitney U test. Since p is less than 0.05 for the mentioned brainwave ratios, we concluded that there is a statistically significant difference between ranks of alpha or theta, and alpha or delta plus theta for the high performing and low performing participants. The best performers' alpha brainwaves were high, that is why they were relaxed and focused during the experiment, indicated through their good performance. In bad performers, delta and theta brainwaves were high at start, meaning that they were also focused because delta brainwaves block external distractions by suppressing unnecessary brain activity. But when they scored low scores, they became disappointed and frustrated, which further increased their delta and theta brainwaves and decreased their alpha brainwaves and relaxation, hence they couldn't perform well. The experiment was conducted using Kahoot, a free online game-based learning platform. Kahoot assigns scores to participants only when a correct answer is provided within a specified time frame. The score is time-dependent. Quicker, correct responses yield higher scores, while slower ones result in lower scores. Since the assigned scores are continuous, the task was framed as a regression problem. We implemented a random forest regression model to predict the scores of our participants. The random forest regression model achieved mean absolute error of 0.009, mean square error of 1.39, root mean square error of 1.18. The root mean square error of 1.18 units depict that on average the predicted values are within 1.18 units of true values. It is output of the random forest regressor model. On x-axis we have the true values and on y-axis we have predicted values. These are references. Thank you.